Hello boys and girls. Today we're going to review inflectional endings ER and EST. Remember, if you add ER and EST to the end of the word, it makes a new word. And it also adds a syllable to the word actually too. Because if we have proud, right? Proud, one syllable. But prouder, prouder, two syllables, and proudest, also two syllables. So that adds an extra syllable, which is another cool fact about these endings. So we're going to go over this again because you have a worksheet that you're going to work on for it today. So I wanted to review a few things with you before you work on that. All right, so let's take a look at our words. We already read some of our first words, but we'll read them one more time. So we have proud, prouder, proudest. Now remember, when you add the ER ending, that means you are comparing two things. Okay, you're comparing two things. But if you have the EST ending, that means you're comparing three or possibly more things, all right? So three or more for the EST and two or more, and two for ER, not more than two. A cool way to help you remember that is to think ER is two letters. ER is two letters, so it is, you use that when you're comparing two things because it has two letters. EST has three letters, so when you add EST to the end of a word, that means you're comparing three things. All right? There's a little way to help you remember it. So we have the word proud, then we have prouder, and proudest. All right? So you can use that in a sentence saying, you know, Jill is proud, Tom is prouder, but Bob is proudest. All right? So at first, you have Jill, she's proud. Then you have Tom, who is prouder, so you're comparing Jill and Tom, so that's two. Then you have Bob, who is proudest, and you're comparing three people, so you have to add EST. Makes sense, right? Good, we did this yesterday. You guys are pros. All right, well, let's take a look at some other words, like the word wide. Oh, notice something about the word wide. It ends with an E. Okay, so we're not just going to add ER like we usually do, right? Because then it would be WIDEER, and that just kind of makes it confusing, and you're not really sure how to pronounce it if you look at a word like that. So we don't have to add the E because it's already there for us, so we're just going to add the R. So it becomes WIDEER. Wider, wider, all right? Just have to add the R because we already have an E there, and we don't need to add an extra E. All right, so what about what would come next in it? We go wide, wider. We have to add EST, right? Except we already have an E at the end. So we don't have to add the E. We don't need two E's in this word. We're just going to add the ST at the end. So it's widest. Widest. There you go. All right, so let's underline that. We have the ER, so that's comparing two things. And then we have EST, which is comparing three things. Good. All right, let's try it with this word, hot. Hot. All right, sometimes you'll like have soup or something and it's hot. But then sometimes it'll get heated up and it'll get hotter. And eventually, if you're comparing three soups, one might be the hottest, right? Or if something with a spicy food, you know, something. You might have a hot sauce that's hot, but then there's another brand that's hotter, and then there's another one that's the hottest. I cannot have hot sauce. Miss Rabideau is not good with spicy food. But if we were going to use that word, we need to add something to the end of the word hot, right? So if we want to make the word hotter, we need to add something more than just the ER. Because if we just add ER, not quite right because now this E looks like magic E. So it looks like it should say like ho-ter, which is not a word. So that doesn't make sense. So instead, we have to, I'll erase this whole word, we'll write it again. We have to add another T. Okay, we have to add another T. So it's H-O-T-T-E-R, hotter. Okay, we had to add another T. All right, do the same thing when we go to hottest. We have to have that extra T in there. And then also add the EST. So we've got to add a little bit extra. So we're going to underline the ER and the EST like we usually do. But then, just so we remember, we also had to add this second T and this second T. Okay, so with words like this that have one consonant right after a vowel, we have to remember that we need to add a second consonant, or else it's going to mess up how it's pronounced, how the word is supposed to be pronounced. Okay, now let's move on to shy. Shy. All right, take a look at shy. What does it have at the end of the word? Y. Y. And remember, if we add an ending like ER or EST to a word that ends with Y, we have to change the Y to an I. Okay? Remember that? We talked about that yesterday. So, it would be shy, but now we're going to say shyer. So you can say, one person is shy, but then you can say another person is shyer, right? So, we are going to do SH, not Y. Remember, we replaced that Y with an I, SHI, and then ER. Shyer. Someone is shyer than another person, right? And then we'll do one more. You could talk about another person, and they are the shyest, right? So, SHIEST, shyest. They are the shyest. So, like we said, with the letter Y, at the end of a word, if you're trying to add an ending, you have to change the Y to an I. So it becomes shy, shyer, shyest. All right, let's underline those endings, and then we'll also just use our blue to remind us that we had to change the Y to an I in order for the word to be correct. All right, boys and girls, great job. You have a worksheet to work on with words like this and adding the endings and things like that. All right, so last reminder, ER, you're comparing two things because there's two letters, ER. Then EST, you're comparing three things because there's three letters, EST. Okay? All right, boys and girls, keep up the good work.